Hello everybody. Today we are going to take our last portion in the module 1 of our syllabus from literary criticism, which is the theory of Alankara. You might have noticed it in your syllabi. So it is related to Indian aesthetics. So during the previous classes, we have already learned about the theory of Dwani as well as the theory of Vyanjana and the theory of Rasa. So today we are going to take about the theory of Alankara, which I had given a narrow overview in the previous class. So what is meant by Alankara? Alankara means the poetic beauty. Poetic beauty. Not only poetic beauty, the word Alankara is associated with beauty or ornamentation in the Indian language, isn't it? Alankara Pani, Alankaram. So that is easy to remember, I think. Now, when we go on to Alankara, the Alankara doctrine in Sanskrit poetics is as old as theory and the poetry itself. Now you can see that it is having a broad meaning as well as a narrow meaning, and this particular word Alankara may refer to the Kavya Saundarya or the poetic beauty in its very broad significance, and in its narrow significance, it implies certain figures of speech. You know the figures of speech in Malayalam, Upama, Alankara, isn't it? In the English language, it is simile, metaphor, metonymy, synecdoche, etc. So, in the same way, you are having Sanskrit figures of speech in this particular Alankara doctrine. Now, for those who doesn't know what is a figure of speech, you know that a figure of speech is a deviation from the plain and ordinary mode of speaking, isn't it? And it is what is the effect that is given by this particular figure of speech? The effect is like it is having an greater effect upon the mind of the reader as well as the mind of the person who hears it, isn't it? And it is an unusual form of speech, and there is an expressional deviation, the striking disposition or the changing of words and ideas, and this figures of speech is known as Alankara. So it constitutes a very beautiful poetic form, isn't it? You know that the verse forms, the different poetry that you have studied earlier, these poetry are having a definite rhyme and rhythm. What gives it a rhyme and a rhythm is Alankara or the figures of speech. The same way, when I tell you something like the curfew tolls the knell of parting day, what is it? It is a figure of speech. What kind of figure of speech is it? It is a personification, isn't it? So, in the same way, you can see that the figures of speech in Sanskrit poetics or Indian poetics is known as the theory of Alankara. Now, when you see that about this particular, see, I'm giving you a general introduction on the topic. So, you have already learned about the theory of rasa, and the person who propounded it was Bhamaha, isn't it? Now, Bhamaha, when he learned about this particular rasa, he found that this particular alankara or the poetic expression is evidently present everywhere. So you can see that a plain and an ordinary statement will not attract the attention of the seeker or the hearer, but a beautified or ornamented language will surely attract the ears of the hearer, isn't it? Now, according to Bamaha, if I have to say, he says that it is a sugar coated pill of language. The language is beautified in such a way that there is always a kind of beauty in the language, music in the language, and this music in the language is embedded in it through the different figures of speech. Now, poets usually use this kind of figures of speech in order to make their writings beautiful, and these embellishments add very good charm to the poetry. If I tell you that a poetry or a written piece of a literature is substantiated or personified to be a girl, then surely these poetic imaginations or the figures of speech are like the ornaments, like the bangles, necklaces, dresses that these girls will wear. So, therefore, this alankara in Sanskrit it means an ornament, and it is like a technical term which is used to encompass all these figures of speech in total. So we find that this Alankara Shastra is found in the Sanskrit poetics early itself, and it is a common belief that this without this Alankara, the object or the that the thing that is to be read, the literature that is to be read, becomes a thing of no interest. Okay. So, usually, the thing that is literature, what differentiates literature from science is that literature has different figures of speech. But in science, you can't write a formula in a figure of speech, isn't it? So, that is something that deviates science and literature. Literature is something that gives us pleasure, delight, and aesthetic sense of appeal, as you have studied in Plato, Horace, and Aristotle. But in science, you don't have these figures of speech. So, when I tell you about this Alankara, it comprises not only the elements of poetics, but also it gives something of an aesthetic appeal also. Therefore, Alankara Shastra can be told as a science which tells what and how a kavya or a poetry should have to be written. So you can see that it's like a judge. The particular figures of speech judges how this particular form of writing is being written. Now, when you go on into deeper analysis, you can understand many more things about Alankara. So, I'm going to tell you in detail about Alankara or the theory of Alankara in Indian aesthetics. So, welcome to my class. Now, Alankara is also referred to as Palta or Alankaram and is a concept in Indian classical music and literally means ornament or decoration. And it is considered a very old concept also, popularly in poetics. I've told you earlier. And when you go on to the historical survey to understand the different varieties of alankaras that are being used, you can see that a maximum amount of literature has been written in this terms of this figures of speech. And the person who defined this alankara earlier was Bharata. Bharata was the person who defined Alankara, and for him, and quite earlier to him, before him, it was a person named Panini, and he said about the word called Ubama. Ubama എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ എന്താ similarity, simile, that is Upama. Okay, now the word Upama that Panini denotes is a symbol relation of similarity. You can see that in English language also you associate a simile like with two different concepts are synced with the word as, isn't it? And that is how you can understand a simile. So when I go on to the next part, there are two large classes of Alankara. Alankara is mainly divided into two large classes. And what are these? Bhamaha is the person who divides the particular thing called Alankara into two parts. And what is it? Shabdalankara and Arthalankara. Now, Ardhalankara, Artha means meaning, and Shabda means word, okay, or sound, okay, which ornaments its sound. Now, when I told you this Bhamaha, he says that the Artha is the real poetry. that is Alankara, which forms the principle of beauty according to Bhamaha, the existence is to be found in the sound, and the sense which is found in the poetry becomes a prerequisite or an important part of poetry. Now, according to Bhamaha, you can see that Alankara becomes the most vital principle in the beauty of a poetry and is exclusively found in poetry, and it distinguishes from Shastra or the science or the scriptures and Varta or the ordinary speech. Now, in this case, you can understand that what I told earlier, that is, deviating from the language of the science and the ordinary speech, what defines a poetic, a literary device, a literary text is something that is called as a figures of speech or an alankara. Now we can see that it studies the literary language and assumes that the focus of literariness is the figure of speech in the mode of figurative expression and in the grammatical accuracy and the pleasantness of sound. It is not something that is rough, it is found to be very pleasant upon the ears. Now, when you go on to the next slide, figurative language has been divided into figures of thought and figures of speech. Now, we divide figurative language into two. The first one is figures of thought, and the second one is the figures of speech. Figures of thought is also known as tropes and are turns or conversions in which words are used in a way that affects a decided change or expression in their standard meaning. Now, figures of thought means the way in which the words are interchanged and used to give a particular meaning. Now, in case of figures of speech or the rhetorical figures, we can see that the words in which the departure from standard usage is not primarily in the meaning but in order and rhetorical effects of the words, and these are found not in natural science but these are found in literature or something that gives us sublimity. Now we can see a pictorial representation of an alankara which is divided into Shabdalankara and Arthalankara. Now see alankara, the different deviations. Okay, so this is something that I took from the internet, and you can see that something is like there is a slight like a mistake, typographical errors there. See, Alankara, it is divided into Arthalankara and Shabdalankara. Arthalankara means according to the meaning. Now, Arthalankara is divided into Vastava. Vastava means something that is realistic. Aupamamya, Aupamya, Aupamaya. Is it? What is it? Upamaya. Is it? Upama. മനസ്സിലായ? അത് വായിക്കുമ്പോൾ ശ്രദ്ധിക്കണം. ഔപമയ ഔപമയ എന്നൊന്നും വായിക്കരുത്. ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് ഉപമ ഉപമ. ഉപമ എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ എന്താ? ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് കമ്പാരിസൺ. Then next one is Atishaya. It is right. Atishaya. What is Atishaya? It is exaggeration. Next one is Slesha. Slesha means combination or coalescence. Now we can see the next one, which is Shabdalankara. What is Shabdalankara? Shabdalankara means the sound. Now Shabdalankara is divided into Vakrokti. Vakrokti. What is Vakrokti? വക്രോക്തിയുടെ താഴെ നമ്മൾ എഴുതി വെച്ചിരുന്ന എലൂവിയേഷൻ എന്നാണ്. ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് നോട്ട് എലൂവിയേഷൻ, ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് എലിവേഷൻ. എലിവേഷൻ മീൻസ് നമ്മൾ അരിസ്റ്റോട്ടലിൻ്റെ സബ്ലൈം ലോഞ്ചൈനസിൻ്റെ സബ്ലൈം പഠിച്ചില്ലേ? അപ്പോൾ സബ്ലൈം പഠിച്ചപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഇറ്റ് ഗോസ് ടു എലിവേഷൻ എന്ന് നമ്മൾ പറയത്തില്ലേ? വാട്ട് ഇസ് സബ്ലൈം? ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് എലിവേഷൻ ഓഫ് തോട്ട്സ്. അപ്പോൾ ദ സെയിം വേ വക്രോക്തി ഈസ് ദ സാൻസ്ക്രിറ്റ് വേർഡ് ഫോർ എലിവേഷൻ. Now the next one is Slesha. It is similar to coalescence and it is also known as paranomasia. Then next one is Chitra. Chitram. What is Chitra? Pictorial representation. So it is picture. Next one is Anuprasa. Anuprasa is alliteration. And the last one is yamak or the repetition. So the only thing that you have to take into consideration is it is not Aupamaya, but it is Upamaya. Okay. No, you shouldn't read it as Aupamaya. Now next one. Ideas in a handful. If I give you the ideas that you are going to have here, that is the school of thought that we are studying is Alankara school of thought. Now the critic behind it is Bhamaha, and some other critics were there after him, but the prominent person is Bhamaha. The next person after him is Dandin, Utpada, etc. Now the text that is associated with Alankara is Kavya Alankara, Kavya Darsh or Kavya Alankara Sangraha. Okay, so it is Kavya Alankara Sangraha. Never read it as Kavya Alankara Sangraha. It is not like that. It is Kavya Alankara Sangraha. Okay, the next one. Bhamaha's Kavya Alankara is divided into 6 parichedas. Parichedas means chapters. It comprises of 398 verses and it includes 2 verses at the end of 6th chapter which briefly describe the number of verses on each of the 5 topics. So you can see that the total number of 6 chapters are there, and the last chapter tells about the different shlokas in or the verses that are embedded in the previous 5 chapters. Now, after the invocation of Sarva, Sarva is a muse here, it defines what defines Kavyalankara defines Kavya and describes the qualifications of a good poet. It also narrates the various genres and the style of poems. Now, followed by the discussion about Alankara in the 3rd chapter. So, which chapter does this Alankara have? Alankara is being written in which chapter of Kavya Alankara? It is written in the 3rd chapter. In the same way, Plato's Republic, which chapter says about poetry? It says the chapter is chapter number 10. Okay, you should remember that. Now, when I tell you something, I mean, like for Bhamaha, you can see that for Bhamaha, Alankara becomes a principle of beauty, as I told you earlier, and you can see that Bhamaha says that everything in this, like in this poetry, should be associated with the thing called the Alankara, and it is known as the ornaments of this La Alankara. Okay, Alankara, Alankara Dhwani, etc. So, when an Alankara is suggested by the power of word or sense, വേർഡും സെൻസും എല്ലാം ഉള്ള ഒരു അലങ്കാരമാണെങ്കിൽ ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് നോൺ ആസ് അലങ്കാര ധ്വനി വേർ അലങ്കാര എൻജോയ്സ് വെരി ഹൈ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ്. Now you can see that alankaras are said to be more charming and is suggested rather than being expressed. Thus, we can say that alankaras are like expressions. Alankaras are the poetic expressions which are included in the Alankara school of poetry, which connotes the fundamental principle of charming of a poetic expression. Now, so you can see that Alankara occupies a very good position here, isn't it? Now, when you say that Alankaras belong to the Shabda, then you can say that the bhava associated with it accompanies the outer embellishments, isn't it? Like I told you earlier, the embellishments are the dressings, decoration, etc. For example, if I take the case of Kathakali, you can see that the dressings and the decorations are associated with the bhavas, and the alankaras means that the verse which is said in the poetic form. So you can see that alankaras belong to this kind of an artha type. So it can be another one, like it can be a soul of poetry. Okay. So we can see that Alankara is a major form of poetry. Now Alankara is like it has a striking effect. So Alankara is not outside of Shabda and Artha, but it is always embedded within this Shabda and Artha. So you can see that without Shabda and Artha, this particular form will not exist. So there is always a correlation or a concomitance between this Artha and Shabda and this particular kind of Alankara. Okay. So we can go on to the next slide, which tells about Alankara or the figure of speech, which can be literally said as something that goes beyond the surface meaning. It ornaments the language and makes it more literary. Ardhalankar consists of Upama Alankar, Upama or simile, which is comprising of two unlike things which is associated with a word as or any other comparative word, but usually you are using as. The main exponent of this kind of writing is Kalidasa. Now next one, when I tell you about the next one, you can say about Rupa Alankar or metaphor. And it is the comparison of two unlike and different things, but they are having something in common. If I tell you the man was a fish in the water, does it mean that the man was a merman? No, it means that the man used to swim like a fish in the water. When I tell you about Shlesha or pun, I would like to say that it is more like it is having two or more meanings within it. Usually, Shakespeare is said to be the person who is associated with the pun making because outside it is having a different kind of comical expression, but inside it is having some kind of an inner expression. So, that is known as a pun. Now next one is hyperbole or atishayokti. Atishayokti means it is an exaggerated way of making a point. For example, if I tell you that the figures of speech, like what you can say, like the epithets, romantic epithets are there. In this kinds of poetry, you can see that a lover is telling about his lover. A person is telling about his lover. He says that my lady's lips are as red as rose, and when she puts down her hair, the whole light becomes dark, or the whole earth becomes dark, or the night comes. So that doesn't mean that the person is putting her hair in such a way in order to mean that the whole universe is going to a night session. Okay, it means that the person or the lover is exaggerating his love for his beloved. Now next one is Shabdalankar. As I told you earlier, the repetition of alliterative sounds at the beginning of the words are there, and that is known as Shabdalankar. Now we can see homonyms or yamak. When same words are repeated again and again and it is having different meanings. Same words but different meanings. These are known as homonyms. What is so if I read IREAD, a book, it can mean that I read a book or I read a book, isn't it? So it is a word of homonym. Next one, when I go on to the next slide, I think that you all will be very happy because here we are coming to the last and final session, which includes the conclusion, and we say about alankaras which determine the beauty of the work. Otherwise, the work will be very sullen and dry and rough, isn't it? Thus, Alankara forms an inevitable part of literary form, and Indian aesthetics is of the view that the sole aim of art is to give pleasure. Though there are many other purposes that art can perform, yet the main aim of this kind of literary device is to give the pleasure principle. So, with this, today we are coming to an end. So, thanks a lot for sitting in my class, and I hope that the class was okay. So, in case of any doubts, you can please contact me.